We now come to episode 6 of season 7, and the second episode in the Ahsoka arc. We now come to episode 6 of season 7, and the second episode in the Ahsoka on Coruscant arc, Deal or No Deal. Now, I think this episode definitely comes out better than the last one, as it was centered around setting up the characters, and nothing really of any substance happened. However, I enjoyed it because it's about Ahsoka, and I always enjoy those episodes. However, I think this might be one of my favourite episodes, or maybe my favourite episode so far in this season, mainly because of how much was going on. So what happens, Ahsoka and Trace are working on Traitor's ship, when her sister Rafa comes up and says that she has a job, but she won't mention what the job is or what it includes. It turns out the job is delivering spice from Kessle to the Pikes. After an altercation on Trace's ship, they lose the spice, and then Ahsoka uses a mind trick on the Pikes to try and get away with not delivering the spice, but they get trapped in a tractor beam. So overall, I really like this episode because it's nicely paced and there's a lot going on. It did, however, feel a bit draggy at times. However, this wasn't like so much that I found it boring to watch. One of the first things I noticed was in the intro sequence there was transitions between the shots, and that was really nice touch. However, you could tell this was done because of a good thought of one of the design directors was working on this. And I'm interested to see whether they will do this again or whether it's just a one-off. One of the main things I like in this video is Rafa and Ahsoka's relationship in this episode. Rafa's very wary of Ahsoka because she has come out of nowhere and she's become friends with her sister of whom she wants to protect. And this is later when she questions Ahsoka on why she knows so much about everything, which obviously stems from Ahsoka being in the Jedi Order, and of course she can't say that, however, but I'd like to see Ahsoka wanting to use her knowledge to keep her friends safe, but not wanting to expose herself as a Jedi due to the responses she could end up getting. I also liked in this episode when Ahsoka, Trace and Rafa were flying past the event and said that Anakin and Ahsoka could sense each other, but neither of them mentioned it. It was a cool little detail and something that I think is good to wait for its own specific episode. Kessle was a planet that I really liked in this episode as well, because it showed two sides of the planet. One side where people living in luxury accommodation having food brought to them on a plate, and the other side of the same planet where people are working on the orders of slave drivers, which was Zygerans as well, which I thought was a nice touch to see them again. Kessle works much like some countries where you could have a country where the president or the prime minister or the leader of that country is living in a palace covered in jewels and diamonds, and on the other side you have civilians living in tin cans and begging on the streets. Something I found interesting about this episode is that Ahsoka has spent most of her life in the Jedi Order, fighting against corruption and slavery. There was even a Clone Wars arc about slavery and her own people being slaves. And this is interesting how a change in circumstances can change you from working against something to working alongside it. The only issue I had with this episode was Ahsoka using the Force on the Pike leader at the end. The Pikes were aware of the Jedi and how they work, however they didn't realise Ahsoka using the mind trick on their leader. Maybe there was a reason for it, but I thought it was just a little odd. However, other than that, I really liked this episode. I could even go as far to say it was one of my favourites, if not my favourite in this season so far. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the next episode holds and how Ahsoka, Trace and Rafa can escape from the Pikes.